Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Worcester Township Board of Supervisors Business Meeting for July 16th, 2025. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to dispense with introductions. I think everybody knows who everybody is. First and foremost, does anybody have any informational items for the board tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this meeting is being video recorded for future broadcast.
Thank you, Christian. First up, we have public comment. Does anybody wish to make any public comment before the board tonight? Bob?
Bob Andorn, Worcester. So, in other normal circumstances, I would agree with you when you make a simple comment like dispense with the introduction. Everybody knows everybody. However, last month, your video was corrupted and incorrect, and therefore it was very difficult to. So you're speaking, I know your voice. If the video showed you and your mouth was moving and there was audio, one could then determine that that was who was speaking. So given the inconsistency and the completeness with which that document's being done, you might want to consider just proceeding as if it's not working properly, so that there is the documentation, and then somebody could then say, okay, that's the chair, that's the assistant, vice chair, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Duly noted. Does anybody else wish to make public comment before the board tonight? Okay. Seeing none, I will, for the purposes of the video and for Bob's comment, my name is Rick DeLello. I'm the chairman of the board. To my left is Lou Betts, who is our vice chair. To my right is Steve Quigley, who is our third member. Over on the side table, we have Wendy McKenna, who's here on behalf of our solicitor. We have John Everts, who's here on behalf of our engineering firm. On the back table, we have Christian Jones, who's our assistant township manager, and we have Dan Domino, who is our township manager. First up, we have official action items and the consent agenda. First and foremost, does anybody wish to remove any items from our consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove the June 18 business meeting minutes and have them amended. And
Can you do me a favor, Lou, and pull the mic to you just so we can get your video on, please?
I'll repeat this. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove the June 18 business meeting minutes and have them amended. I think there's a lot of things missing. And after a conversation with Christian, apparently we have an AI informational process that picks up things and doesn't.
Okay.
So there's a number of things I'd like to in it, and
So would you want to remove the minutes for the work and business session, or?
do you want to hear why I want to amend them, or do you just want me to remove them and have them corrected for next month?
I want to hear why as well, but I want to make sure, are we talking about both of them or just?
There's two items, and I just want them on the record, is all. This is nothing personal. This is just informational that was said, and I just want to, when I tried to abstain from a vote on the resolution 2025-13, council advised me that I could not abstain. I had to vote no. I don't believe that to be true, but I did vote no, but it says here, it says I opposed. Either way, I'd like it reviewed and stated that I did try to abstain, and then council advised me on a no vote. The other one being in other business, and it was after public comment, and Mr. Andorn came up and said that you announced that an item to send council to the zoning hearing it's a non-agenda item that we voted on, and he had a problem with it. And if you look into it, I don't know if that process was done right, and maybe it should have been in the beginning, or at least advertised 24 hours ahead of time. And again, just for keeping everything up and up on the record, those two items should have been at least presented correctly. And other than that, I'll make a motion for the June 18th work session minutes.
It's fine. We can take them out and take a look and see it, getting them correct. I don't have any issue with that. That's fine. So I would say we'll just extract that item, and if you make the motion for the other pieces.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the work session minutes for June
Yep.
18, treasurer's report and monthly reports for June of 25, bill payment of June of 25 of $371,542.74.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Bob?
The payment of the bills, that's included in this, correct?
Correct.
So I have a question. I don't know that I'll get the answer, but I'll question it. And then in particular, there's a couple of the bills that you're proposing to pay. Number one is a Costco membership. And I'd like to understand what that's all about, if you know the answer.
I don't off the top of my head.
I can answer that, Mr. Chairman. That has been in our handbook for well over a decade. That is a benefit that the township has provided to its employees for at least 10 years. I don't know how exactly long, but that has been in the handbook and provided and been a yearly bill for at least that long.
So to add to that, you're telling me that the prior manager of 10 years ago instituted this as a perk for the employees?
I don't know how or the methodology on how it was done, but I can tell you that it has been a bill that we have paid for at least a decade. It is in our handbook as a benefit to the employees.
And I saw that, and it's like $875, so I guess the membership, if you divide by, I guess it's somewhat 7 memberships. Is this employees? Do you have one? I don't have one.
I have my own, but I don't.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't use the townships, but I know I know many of our public works employees and administrative staff do use it. And it is a valuable perk to them. However, it's certainly not something that's set in stone. I have not put a lot of thought onto changing that, but it certainly is at the board's discretion to offer any benefit to anyone on staff.
Okay.
So my general comment is number one, I'm not aware that it was in an employee handbook, as I don't have that. I find it to be inappropriate to be doing that. But I think you should investigate. Just as an example, it's $875.
$845. I'm correcting myself. $845.
And so you divide that by the number of memberships that you're getting. I would like to know, I think that you would like to know, Dan is saying that's for the employees. So are you buying a membership for Dan, even though he has his own? In which case you're wasting money. You're spending something for a perk that no one is using. I think you would want to understand who's getting it, who's using it, where that came about. And if it's in your employee handbook, I think it would be appropriate for you to remove it. Yeah, we have a large surplus, but that's, I find that to be inappropriate to be spending our taxpayer dollars that way. The second item is on the bills to pay, there's a series of individuals who are listed. They have varying difference amount. I don't have it right in front of me. I can grab it and give that to you. I'm assuming those are township employees. They have different varying amounts, $650. I know that Bob DeHolster's on there, so I'm aware that he's a township employee. I'm trying to understand what those costs are for.
So those are stipends? I'm sorry.
Fire stipends.
Yeah, those are for township employees that also run with the fire department during the week and the day. That's a program that's been in place for several years, worked out so that we're paying an additional stipend for those who perform both services. It's an incentive for them to run with the fire department during the week. Or in general, it's a program that we've discussed in public meetings in the past, but that's what those checks are for, and they're differing amounts based on the conditions of how that plan was structured. I don't have all the information in front of me on it, but we certainly can get it for you.
I absolutely want that, because the only thing that I'm aware of that was ever discussed was the earned income tax credit. And that's applied to to those people who meet certain criteria. So I'm not quite sure. I thought that I just heard the manager say it was a car stipend. So
No. It's fire.
fire
Fire
stipend. I
stipend
misunderstood. I
for
didn't
the
hear.
employees. It was put in place several years ago. It was born out of a specific concern at the time that there would be calls during the day that they could not meet and satisfy. It was also a way for us to try to incent our public works individuals in particular, but employees within the township to try to get them more engaged in the fire department at the time. That it's been in place for several years. It seems to work out well for both the employees and the fire department, but we're happy to get you whatever information we can provide on that. I don't know if it'll require a right to know, Bob, but we're happy to share whatever we have on
If
that.
somebody could inform me if I need to file a right
Yep.
to know, I will. I'd like to understand
Sure.
everything about that. I want to understand how the fee is calculated, who's getting it, and the genesis of how that, I'm not generally opposed to that concept. However, these people are being paid for their township work. Then they're not performing that township work while they're performing work for the fire department, and we're double paying them at the same time. They're not I'm making that assumption. I could be 100% wrong. I don't believe that they're clocking out.
They are.
They are clocking out. So this is just kind of to make them whole for doing that. Then I stand corrected on that, but I would still like to understand.
Can I interject here? And I got some information for Bob. So I talked to the assistant fire chief today, and I questioned a number of those events. And the program works. They're working on it, and Dan has worked with them. And as far as they are paid additional money, because when the fire whistle blows, not everybody's working jobs somewhere. So the public works drops the lawnmower, so to speak, and suits up and do that. And the additional money, I think, is for their education, firefighter one, firefighter two certifications. And it seems to, and I questioned that, and I said, is it working what they're doing? They train, they drive the trucks, and it's a need. And I agree with you, we're paying money, and I asked them, and this is something for Dan to handle, are they showing up for fire calls? And again, it varies, because if you're in Mount Kirk,
Bob, if you want to just shoot me an email, you don't got to do a right to know request. I'll give you anything.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's,
as long as there's some kind of process in there, again, if we're paying them for education so that they can perform their job either as a township employee or as a firefighter, I'm not opposed to that. If we're not double paying for them while they're working and to perform their fire duties, and I think it's definitely appropriate for them to help with the fire company to do that. I just didn't understand that, and we didn't have access to those documents before, so that's only been recently, and I've kind of been following it, and it's inconsistent. It's different amounts, different people. Sometimes it's duplicate of those people, not duplicative in the month, but in ensuing months. So I was just trying to understand what that is. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just a comment to, as far as the Costco membership, a number of years ago, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, I believe it was under Lee Magnum, he started doing an analysis of the pay scale and where our employees were being paid compared to neighboring employees. I believe the workers in Collegeville were getting paid $75 an hour because they got unionized there. And Lee tried to come up with some perks, per se, the little things to make it a little more enjoyable to work here. So that was Lee Magnum's idea. So the Costco membership and some of the other little things that came into the, I guess, township handbook to encourage people to be here. The thing the township is dealing with now, as far as the pay scale, our employees are. That study will come out very shortly, and we're working on that. And which leads into the firehouse. When your house is on fire, you wish someone shows up to put it out. I witnessed that with the Smith fire and a couple other barn fires in the township recently. It's hard to get volunteers. Everybody wants the other guy to do it. It's the same as the school district, everything else. Everyone bitches and complains about stuff, but they don't get involved. The fire guys are there 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the morning, snow, sleet, rain, vacation time, they take away from their family. So these are, once again, under Lee, one of the perks to try to encourage the guys in the firehouse. They don't get much versus the paid firehouse. It's much the same as the paid police department. People complain about the state police. They complain about this, they complain about that. If you have to start footing the bills, it's an issue, which I'll go full circle. People complain about the open space in the township. And I challenged the residents 5, 6, 7 years ago under Tommy Ryan. Okay, we'll start a fund. We'll start a fund for open space rather than using all the money the township has. Everybody wants open space. They want to preserve open space. And I think 10 people contributed to the open space fund. Everybody wants it, but when they have to put their time and their money into it, they want to use the taxpayers' money, their money, to do it. But we have to sit here and be diligent about the money before us. Where do we spend the money? Do we buy a new fire truck? We pave the roads? We buy open space? So it's a tough situation. I know you're getting bored with me saying what I had to say, but you had your chance to comment, and I'm just making a comment from sitting up here about people volunteering. When you have workers in a business, I'm not sure how many workers you have in your business, but it's tough getting workers right now. You're competing with workers. It's tough to find people who want to go out and mow lawns and weed whack. And we have to be competitive with the local landscapers that are paying probably a lot more than us. We have the benefit package to go to our employees. That's when they stay here. There's longevity working for the township. Right or wrong, that's the way it's set up. It's like a government job. Everybody likes to work for the government. And we are a government entity because we're here. We're not going to lay the people off unless they decide to quit. But we try to make it more enjoyable where they have bills to pay. They have to live in this area, and uh, it's hard to get someone to commute an hour and a half to come to Worcester and work in the Public Works Department. So it's local people. They live here, they shop here, they pay taxes here, and they require a certain pay scale to be competitive with other townships. Thank you.
I think we should just be transparent in terms of what compensation we're giving to people and what additional perks there are. And I mean, Steve just mentioned, so this Costco card, but then he said Lee, and he made reference to, I have no idea if there is additional stuff, that there were additional perks that were granted and offered. So I don't know what those are, but I was completely surprised with the Costco. I think that it's inappropriate. I think you should consider not paying that for now and understanding what all of that is. I would love to know what else is there so I don't have to go digging for it.
Bob, let me come back 1 second. I probably didn't add it. Lee said these are some of the perks they do in other towns. And this is what Lee, when he worked in Lansdale, they had a list of perks they give to the people. He didn't expand on it, but the Costco was membership, something they had done. He had suggested to the board it seemed to be a good thing for the people. We didn't do anything other than the Costco membership, which Lansdale has a list of things they do for the people in the public works.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. We appreciate the comments. Is anybody else? So we had a motion, we had a second. Are there any additional public comments regarding the motion that is on the floor? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So a light agenda, we hope. We'll see. We have moving down to the motions, and Dan, I'm going to hand it over to you in a second, but there's going to be a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-16 to amend the Worcester Township fee schedule. But first, Dan's going to give us some information and backdrop. We'll chat about it, and then we'll decide if we want to do anything with it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to take a couple minutes to just talk about why we're doing this and how this is going to work. So we're in the process of transitioning to a new uniform code construction firm. For those of you who don't know what a uniform construction code firm is, it is the third-party agency we contract with to conduct our building, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical inspections. I'm sorry. So this is born of a long research process. There's several issues that we're addressing under the previous system that by switching to a new inspector with and adopting their fee schedule directly, there's a number of benefits to it. Right now, currently, the way it works is if you're building a new house, we would have our our previous inspector would do the building permit, would do the mechanical permit, would do the plumbing permit. The applicant would then have to go out to a third-party agency outside of our scope, outside of the township, completely independent, get stamped and sealed plans from an electrical engineer, submit them to a third-party inspection company, and then run an in-tandem inspection process. Logistically a nightmare, conveniently a nightmare, and realistically not cost efficient. So because you're scheduling a rough, there's a rough inspection done on all of those things in a new house. A rough plumbing, a rough mechanical, a rough electrical, and a rough building. Right now, the way it was, you would have to set that all up, schedule that all up, so all of those things were being done in tandem with multiple parties. By transitioning to a new company that can handle every aspect of it, it's one submission to the township. The review is done by one company. The inspections are done by one company. It is significantly more efficient for both staff and significantly more convenient for the residents. Number two, and I think even more importantly, under this new fee schedule, the applicants for the work are bearing the full cost of the inspections that they're getting conducted. As our current fee schedule stands, we are not billing residents what it costs for the township to, and by residents, I mean anyone who applies, which includes large developers like Toll, that has done a number of them. Current residents are subsidizing permit costs for developers to come in and build new homes. I personally don't think that's fair or correct. This fee schedule is a one-to-one pass-through. The township generates no revenue out of this fee schedule. If our third party bills us $300, we pay. We get $300. It's a pass-through on the budget. It'll be, those line items will match up. The revenue item for inspections and the expense item for inspections will be the same number going forward. Some of the permits are going to be higher. Some of them are going to be lower. It depends on the combination of things you're doing. But I can say that a new home is going to be within $100 either way. An average 2,500 square foot home with all the practices involved in that is going to be approximately the same cost. It might be slightly higher depending on what they're doing. It might be slightly lower. But generally, it's going to be basically a break even on this. Again, there are going to be some permits that cost more. That being said, we are not raising prices on permits. It has always costed us this much. We have just been not billing those costs to applicants. So by doing this, we're getting a professional company which is the largest inspection firm in eastern Pennsylvania with clients up and down through the state and out of state. They have on-site, they have after-hours inspections. There's no more, you have to schedule inspections on a Tuesday morning between 9 and 12, Tuesday or Thursday morning. They can come anytime during the day, anytime during the week. It's a significantly large organization, and it has significantly more capabilities as far as this process goes. So I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has. I spent a lot of time as a director of permitting at Upper McCungie. It's one of my roles. I've seen firsthand how a bad process can cause frustration and cost people time and money. So I'm passionate about it, and I think that this is the right move. But again, I'm happy to answer questions from the board or the public on it.
You got some question you want to start? I can start. You can dig in.
If you want,
Steve? Yeah, you can start.
we'll play the game. Okay, so apparently, Dan, we terminated our contract with Keystone, correct?
I'm sorry?
We terminated our contract with Keystone.
Correct. We didn't have a contract, but yes.
We just terminated the use of those.
Right.
And you hired Barry Issett and Associates.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying they're one of the largest.
One of the largest, if not the largest.
One of the largest, not large. So we just hired Nike to do all our inspections when Converse could probably do a better job. I don't know that. I'm making this just a dumb comment, but what I'm saying is I need more time and more data to even pass a statement on this, because we just raised them in January and we went from one of the probably the lowest, and now we're, I think, on the upper tier. And bigger companies charge a lot. And I don't know if this is I believe that maybe the board should table this, get a little more evaluation. I'm not challenging you, Dan, at all. I just need more information to make this judgment, because raising money taxes, it's a tax, fees a tax, whatever. I just need more time to evaluate it because big companies are not always, they're expensive and they have a higher overhead. So just like any type of subcontractor we do with our legal or CKS engineers, I mean, bigger is not always better. So that's my opinion. So I'll stop right there.
Okay, so let me ask you, so what additional information would you want? Would you want to see, you want to have, want to?
I'd like to spend more time that we just raised them in January. So raising them again, I just think we just leave it alone for a month or two. And then we're gonna do a comparison and see if these people are coming in and just maybe charging a lot of money for the same service that maybe Keystone was doing, whether you were getting complaints or not. Keystone's been around a while. We've had them for a long time.
Correct.
So we're, did we get enough complaints where we had to terminate them, or are we just making
So we've gotten memos on this, and I'll let Dan fill in all the pieces, but certainly we talked to Keystone first. Like our first thing was, so let me back up. Dan started working on this about 6 months ago. We provided a memo to the board. What he wanted to do was to try to get under one umbrella for inspections. That was sort of which we all thought was, again, we all sort of said that makes sense. Try to take a look at that. And I know I spoke to him directly, just said, let's just make sure we start with Keystone to see if they can do electrical,
the electrical's the big thing.
the big thing they can't do, or couldn't, or weren't doing, or
And they did submit a response, when we put an RFP out, they did submit a response, that unfortunately, they still were not able to provide electric in their response.
but either way, I don't have any concern if you want to take a little more time with it. Steve, I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean, what I would say is I don't think the way I'm reading it, is not that we're trying to raise permit rates. We're just simply trying to align a straight pass through on that. Now, if there's some questions about those costs, certainly I don't have any concerns with taking more time to sort of evaluate and make sure you're comfortable in that regard. But that was the idea behind even looking into it ultimately. I mean, I don't jump to make change either. I mean, we have a relationship that was in place with Keystone for certainly as long as I've been a board member. I mean, I don't know when it originated
30
initially.
years, over
but-
30 years.
Okay, Rick, my comments are this. Usually after we go to the meeting up in Hershey, we thank the residents of Worcester for allowing us to go there. And I've had the privilege for 15 or 16 years to go to the conference up there. One of the good things is the trade show where this company's been there, has been a loyal supporter of it for a number of years. You get to meet the people and talk to them. We've never used them. We've never signed up with them. But when you talk to supervisors from one end of Pennsylvania to the other end of Pennsylvania, you hear what their response is. You find out about the good, the bad, and the ugly, who's doing a good job, who's doing a bad job. And this company has always gotten glowing reports from the networking session. The networking session is the place where, like any trade show, it's the side table discussions where you find the information out. You find out who's doing the work and who's not doing the work. And I think from the neighboring counties, the neighboring townships, they've always had a fairly good recommendation. The people have been pleased with them. Until Dan started this discussion 2 months ago, I never entertained the idea of hiring this company. I think just based on what other townships have used, and that's usually what you go by when you hire some of these people, either the law firm or the engineering company, you find out, where they do good jobs, where they do bad jobs. Are they usually coming with good recommendations? And I think that's something that I've learned to listen from others' experiences when I don't know about it. And I think we did that with some of the engineering people we interviewed. You hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. They seem like they're a big company, do a really good job, but sometimes the service just isn't there. So Dan did the research. He came back with his recommendation based on, say, the expense and cost revenue coming in, and it seems logical. We hire a township manager to do the daily work of the township. He takes the ball, he runs with it, he does the research, he analyzes the information. We are elected by the people to do the work of the township, to be stewards of the community funds and watch out where money's being spent, as Bob put out about Costco. There's a question about that. You have to honor that. But we also have to honor the recommendations sometimes of the township manager. We don't have to agree with them all the time. And I think it's that three different people, we have different views. But I think Dan's done the research. He's come up with the numbers as far as what it costs. I've heard from people before that with our inspectors, well, he only can come Tuesday afternoon, and it's a problem. That's a problem when you take off, and I think Dan sees that in the office, and I've heard complaints about that over the years, and, well, that's the way the inspector's schedule goes. We have to work around the inspector's schedule. Dan checked that box off. He also checked the box off as far as the expenses, what it costs now versus what we can get on the return. When he mentioned it to me, he said that when we do these, not so much the home renovations of the people, but the township residents are subsidizing the big builders when they're doing these major projects. The township residents are picking the bill up. And as Bob mentioned, he likes to know the information. This is something, Bob will have a discussion about that, but we can have further discussion about that. But that's what Dan had said, the expenses sometimes don't get paid all by the big developer. So I'm listening to the township manager and looking for his guidance moving forward.
Okay. So you think we should move forward with it tonight? Do we want to take another month for Lou to get around the numbers? Either way, I mean, I can go either way on it. I'm not,
Yeah, once again, I'm not in the office. I on a daily basis checking on these things, and Dan's there. We hired him to look at these things and look at the numbers on behalf of the township residents.
right. I agree, but I'm also more than willing to take another 30 days. If
Not
Lou
a
wants to
question.
take a look at that. I think, I think it's a good idea. I think it makes sense, but I'm certainly fine with taking another month if you want to take a closer look at the numbers. I'm okay with that.
That's my recommendation. I'm reading over some of this, and I'm just not comfortable yet. And 1 month is not going to make a difference in the end of the world in Worcester.
Once again, if he needs to look at something, I have no problem. It's not something that,
That's fine.
it's set in concrete. It's just, I think that's the purpose of being up here, having a discussion and trying to work through it, that everyone's comfortable with it before a vote comes up. I have
Absolutely.
no problem with that.
I'll agree with both of you. I mean, I think the end goal, one, I like the idea of being under one umbrella on all the inspections. I think that makes things easier. I do like the notion of a straight pass through, that's, you get comfortable with where the number is, and then it's just a pass through, and we're not, we're sort of out of the way, in terms of that. And then the proof is in the pudding. It's not a contract, Dan, correct? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're not
Correct. We
obligated.
have not, it is professional service. We do not sign a contract. We are free and clear any kind of way we would ever want to move.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I think it's fine. We can hold the vote for 30. We'll put it on again, it's the middle of the summer. We're certainly putting it on the August agenda. I don't have any issue with doing that in that regard. Certainly, folks want to make public comment when we get to that on the issue. You're happy to do that, but it sounds like we're going to move it to August for a voting decision. So we don't have to have public comment right at this moment, but we certainly can do that in a few minutes when we get to public comment. So what I would just say, Dan, is if you can connect with Lou, and we could just make sure that if there are open questions and different things, we get them all answered and to his satisfaction. And again, to Steve, that's fine with me.
Fine with that.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Other business. Does anybody have any other business they wish to bring up before the board tonight? I do not have anything.
I have none.
Okay. Then we have public comment, one more opportunity. Does anybody wish to make any additional public comment tonight before the board?
I will make sure it is legible since it was incorrectly reported previously. Bill McGrain, Worcester. Want to follow up on a couple things that were said at recent meetings. Um, So this is the 8th meeting this year of this board for business. Um, And my good neighbor Ed came up and made a comment recently at a meeting about issues that have fallen off the table and that they were not tracked. And he had specific issues that he mentioned, which were dear to me, which kind of stirred me a bit, and kind of followed up, did some research. And so the Township Planning Commission has held 5 meetings so far this year. And one of the things they were tasked with a few years ago was doing a survey of township properties and coming back with some recommendations. Now, that clearly is one of those issues that's fallen off the table. Now, in the last, since this whole township manager RAMA thing started a few years ago, there have been a lot of meetings where we're going to readdress this issue, has been said from the front. And little or no action has been transferred to committees within the township who would carry out those actions. So we kind of tried to interact with the Township Planning Commission when they did do a little bit about that last winter. Actually, it was within the winter solstice, so it was the shortest possible days of the year that they decided to go out and survey these properties. And I think a member might be able to tell you that they got to 2 or 3 in one of those days. And that was it. It fell away. So we're within a month of the summer solstice where you have the most amount of daylight. And so they put a self criteria on that. They were going to do this after work in the evenings when they have a whole month between meetings when they could do something. But if you're not asking to do things, things don't get done. And so 3 township managers in a row, I've asked a specific question to about the Fisher Road property. And they've all said, well, I'll check with the Board of Supervisors about that. I've not gotten an answer from any of those township managers. So the whole idea that Ed's talking about issues falling off the table is legitimate. And I have concerns because we just kind of kicked the can down the road here month after month after month. And now I understand there is a feeling within the room that there's only 4 people in the township who care because those 4 people sit in the back row. Well, Christine sits 1 row ahead of us. But there are lots of people who watch the meetings and I have discussions with and are interested in the township. And they're interested in open space. They're interested in plans by the township. They're interested in the Zacharias Trail, which we talked about, but no one put it up on the board, which we have the capability to do to show us. So I would just like you to consider when you say we're going to actually follow up with we're going to get the planning commission this information because the packet they were given previously was inaccurate and incomplete. So even though they were half-hearted in their effort, they weren't supported by the township in what I feel was good information. So I just want to get that off my chest, and we'll see where it goes. I'll talk to my neighbor Ed and see about his issues, but would really like to see some effort put in by some of these committees within the township and you direct.
So I'd like to make a couple comments if I can, Bill. So I can tell you, if we roll back the clock, the original desire was we submitted for a grant to fund a master plan on all the properties. That was the original intention. We did not get that grant. We pivoted. I sat down with, at the time, with Sean after we pulled, all three of us said, we want to do something, what makes sense? So we tried to put together a project where we would hand it to the planning commission to do the, the act of sort of cataloging what we have, just to try to give us a better picture of sort of what we have, where we might be deficient, how parks, I mean, it was sort of a holistic look. To your point, it did not get where it was intended to go. Um, I actually very recently sat down with Dan specifically, directed him to say, hey, look, we have a couple of challenges that we've now seen with the planning commission. And I say the planning, you get cycles. So across 12 months, there are periods of time they get active with time-sensitive land development items that tend to take priority because we're required to meet dates and deadlines. So it showed a difficulty to sort of get traction on some of these things because they get interrupted. And then how do we do it better? To your point, they stall out and then trying to get them reset again hasn't been ideal. What I tasked Dan with is saying, help us as a board figure out how we can package it, how we can put it together so that it can get to actionable points. Pick one park as an example. Pick one park and say, let's get our arms around one park. Not all the parks, not everything. Take one piece where we can say we can do this for 2 meetings, we can answer a bunch of questions, or we can get comments. Again, we just finite it, so we can put a wrapper on it, and then we can produce a deliverable of some sort, so that it come back to the board to say, yeah, this is what we were kind of looking for, this is not what we were looking for, or this doesn't quite work, but just try to break it down in a way so that it can get some step forward. You know, we're obviously not getting to the end line and then it just sort of stalls out. You're right. I mean, it's the board, it comes up here. We're not just saying it to send it to the abyss, but we obviously haven't found a way to effectively sort of get it to that committee in a way that they can digest it, that they can take action upon it, that they can produce something back to the board. Dan and I had that within the last 30 days. So again, but specifically to your point, we do feel the same challenge that you're saying. We're not trying to put it, out into no man's land. But ultimately, I've asked them to try to say, let's try to get a package, work with, have the planning commission help us understand how can we give it better to you? How can you take an action on it? How can you get to a spot where you can take some action that we can produce something back to this board so that we can say it either works or it doesn't work and make adjustments to it versus, we used to have a saying in my business, big companies try to boil the ocean. An ideal comes, you try to boil the ocean. Sometimes maybe that's what we're trying to do is we're boiling too much, trying to boil the ocean, put it in a pot, make it smaller, a smaller piece that can be digested. As you were saying, fine, if somebody needs to go out to the site and look at the site, that's fine. If not, what can you do without going on site? Can you do anything? Can you not do, so we could just do a better job of breaking it down. And then when we know as best we can, you've got a hole coming, hey, we've got a couple of meetings where there isn't a specific agenda of land development, then you can sort of bring it forward, but in a way that you can sort of get it started up in that meeting. It doesn't then take several meetings to sort of get that restarted again. I agree with you. It's still a need. We're still actively seeing if we can find grants and things for, bringing in professional services above that. We just haven't succeeded on that piece. But in the interim, certainly we have very talented people on our planning commission. We have a lot of input that certainly we think that they can certainly help us get some of these pieces a little bit better, but we can certainly do a better job of saying, hey, how do you need it? And what do we need to get to you? I'm very comfortable with the office staff we have in place now to be able to get to things, in terms of whether it's Dan, whether it's Christian, whether it's the other staff members. If that was one of the challenges in the past, I think we're better there. But, your point is fair. It's well taken. And we're not, we're going to see what we could do to be better on that particular item for sure, ultimately. But we'll see. And if we're not, I welcome you to come back and remind us to that effect. That's part of the deal.
And I don't know, is the planning commission limited to an hours per month or something that they?
They're not.
Because I attend their meetings and they are very rigid about their hours per month.
So The short answer is that the planning commission has every right to sort of set the structure of their meeting. We don't tell them how long they have to go or how short or, and ultimately whether, we don't, month to month, I don't think any other board member sort of takes note of whether they had or didn't have, like, we don't follow up to that level of granularity on it, but ultimately, if they feel they need to meet more often and they collectively choose to do that, they can do that. If once a month is adequate, they can do that. They can decide the length of their meeting on their own. That's a collective decision for them as a commission to do that. They are all volunteers. We appreciate that they volunteer, so we certainly want them to find sort of a mechanism that works for them collectively.
Can I s- can I-
Sure, you can jump, absolutely.
Maybe you should push him for twice a month for land planning. And as far as Ed, who asked me, sat at that table and asked me about the band shell, and that was my idea 3 years ago, because I go to Fisher Park, I go to Limerick, and go to Town Medicine, and they enjoy the bands, and their townships are a little more, maybe more dense in population, so they get more done. If the public wanted that band shell that hard, 2 members, it only takes 2, and we could order Dan, you got 60 days. CoStar approved band shells, pick one, put it here, do it. We can't do that because you got to make it comfortable for everybody. And if we just do it and just pop it, let's say behind here, then maybe there's conflict later. It's a lot of money for $60,000, $70,000 to like, well, that wasn't a good idea. But unfortunately, we seem to like we have a bunch of different boards and we can't get along on anything. And I don't know why it falls off because township managers, the past 2 full-time and 1 part-time, had no interest in that band shell, could care less what I said. They had their own agenda and it's like, yeah, no. And, okay, so I got no traction. So that could be done in 60 days if so we choose, but more people have to come to land planning, more people have to put their opinion in, and then we do have to make a decision. But you're right, we just seem to kick the can down the road. And, and I agree that we're not the best at what we do. And maybe we can do better. And I hope we do. But we do have a lot of land, and I hope we can make a good purpose for it. And again, you're an equestrian, you love your horses, and I do too. And if we wanted, I would love to have this 9 acres we bought, plus some here, reconfigure it, and actually get it on paper and do it. You did show plans to us. You brought plans. You gave me a copy. I like the idea. We just can't get it done because I don't know. I don't have an
Part
answer.
of, part of this, and again, the committee made their own decisions on how they were going to address what you tasked them with. But part of that, to me, will percolate a bunch of other issues. Like, why does the township a land speculator? Why does it own building lots? Why is the township a landlord? You have 10 acres on the backside of Heavener Park, where you're a landlord for a tenant. What, these are all things that I don't necessarily see in the authorization. You don't have a housing authority, so I don't see where that's in the charter for this type of township. But it is another kick the can down the road that just seems to happen and happen and happen. And I don't know that the benefit to the residents or the property owners to the township is with the township being in those businesses. And that's something that if the planning commission were to be thorough, might also be addressed in some sort of survey. So, all right.
My comments are, I'll address the last place first. You're totally on target with that property sits over there. You know, we do a lot of landscaping mowing. It looks really nice for one person in the township, and it's a pretty good deal. You know, you're not paying taxes on it. The township pays taxes on it. That's something has to be looked at. And I suggested with some of the other managers, and it just has fallen through the cracks. But it's a pretty nice thing over there. They have. Regarding the open space, I certainly know you were involved in sports with your kids. I get hammered by the young parents only because my kids are associated, my grandkids now, between soccer, football, basketball. They all want space. They all want playing fields. Worcester doesn't have enough playing fields. They have a travel team, and I have to, in fact, pick my grandson up over there at Mascaras Field tonight, and 7 of the 10 kids are Worcester kids. And why they come over here? Well, they have lights at the field. Why doesn't Worcester have these things? It's tough to keep everybody, try to make everybody happy. Everybody wants something. And, you know, you're through the stage in life, you spend a lot of time on a soccer field with your kids coaching and things. These young parents come along, they're involved for 4 to 6 to 7 years, and they move on. Then it's another set of parents come along, and these people want fields. And the problem is, when I grew up, you played on the field. If the soccer people played on it, everyone played on the same field. But nowadays, the girls' hockey team can't play on a team where the guys are out there with spikes or playing football or baseball. Everybody needs their own field, and there's just not enough land around. And that's something that we, the township, through the park commission and the planning commission, have to start looking at that. What do we do with the space? And I think sometimes you're right, kicking the can down the road. Once you open Pandora's box, they all want it. They all want it for something. I just need it for baseball. I just need it for girls hockey. I need it for lacrosse. You know, it's just an amazing number of people. They're put their kids in camps and they're on these teams. It's good. You want the young kids to be involved, and it grows them. It gives them some kind of sportsmanship and matures them and become a part of a team. But it's endless. So I know it's a problem. We have to address it. But I thought we could work something out with the school district, but the school district's not really talking right now to Worcester regarding the building of the school, and maybe there's some bad blood there. It's something we have to work on. It's just
Right.
the school district would like more fields. They find out that other schools sometimes they bust the kids. They use our thing out here for cross country, but they like more fields for the students in the district. You know, half maybe from Worcester, and they could have a satellite baseball field or satellite lacrosse field or hockey field somewhere in the township in the open space. They can bus the kids to the games, which apparently other schools are now doing. There's not enough school space on the school property, so they have these satellite fields. You know, Villanova University plays down in Bridgeport or in Plymouth Township. Their baseball field seems really odd for a college to be 20 minutes away from the field, but that's the way the land is. So there's a lot of issues we have to address. Um, and it gets back to cost. You know, Lucid at the band shell, great idea for entertainment. Well, who wants a band shell in their backyard? You know, nobody wants traffic. Everybody likes it the way it is, nice and peaceful, seeing the frogs and the moon out there, but they don't want the traffic going to the band shell and the music there. So try to find a place in the township, a gathering spot. You know, Lou suggested back here. I think it's a great spot, but I don't live there. I know my dentist lives back there. Terrible idea, and his neighbor thinks it's a terrible idea. Well, I live next to the turnpike, so that we don't live in a perfect society. It's never the right place, and we have to weigh all those options. So, Bill, I certainly understand what you're saying. So,
Yes, with the ball fields, we had a incomplete analysis done by the staff about field usage. We've had now a year passed since that where we've had a lot more data where we could give good information to the planning commission as part of that, because if you're going to make it comprehensive, they can analyze what we have. They can also analyze what's being requested and what's being used. But that would be a coordination, and that's up to the planning commission, I guess.
It's up to them. I'm trying to get to a point where I've asked that we can give them one piece. They can get ours around one piece, that we're not trying to get all of this right. You know, again, to your point, some of the data wasn't as complete as it needed to be. Take one little slice, take it and wrap it and get that done, and then use that just as a framework to say, okay, let's make this adjustment, let's make that adjustment, but it's got to be in bite-sized pieces so it can be plugged in better. And again, however they want it as well. Like we need to figure it out, which we are committed to do. You have the commitment from this board. We've all said it, I think, in different ways, but we're all behind it, and we certainly will do our best. Thank you, Bill. I do appreciate the comments, as always. And Bob, did you have something as well? Sure.
I'll be under Worcester. So I won't address Bill's comments because I think he knows where I'm coming from, and I'm clearly the outlier in terms of that other participation and frustrating for me in general. I'm not ready to give it up, but it's tremendously frustrating. The issue that I wanted to just address is the change in fees. And I want to respectfully disagree with the comments that Dan made, but I can't do that because I don't know what he's provided to you. All we got was, here's the new fee schedule. I can do a quick analysis. As much as Dan wants to say they're the same rates, they're not. The fees will go up. You may say it's a pass-through. It's a pass-through if your vendor, if the current fee would be $1,000, but your vendor comes in and says, I'm going to charge you $1,500. Yeah, the $1,500 is a pass-through, but it's still an increase. It's a significant increase. And I don't see any data that would support that the township residents are subsidizing the major developers. I would love to know. I don't want to subsidize. It's no different than the sewer plants. I'm unfortunately not a member or a participant of using that. If I were, then I mean, I would like to pay. I don't want to pay for other people's sewer because I'm not receiving that benefit. So the same thing would kind of be true in terms of the permit fees, but I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. I can definitely figure it out, but we don't have any of that data. And the data that we were provided, your fees will go up substantially. Disagree with what Dan's saying. I'd love to look at how he came to his analysis, that it would only be $100 more. I don't, my review of the information, but less than 2 years ago, the assistant township manager put together an analysis. That analysis had no basis of fact other than here's what other people in the county charge. Worcester's at the bottom, and when we get done with this, we're way at the top. So that tax, and that's what that is, it's a tax for doing that particular service. Those residents who are using that are paying a significant more share from what they had to. And this will now increase those costs even more. You may say it's a pass-through, but just because the manager suggested, or maybe I just wanted to hear that he said an RFP went out, we don't have any of that information. The biggest is generally one of the more expensive. They may be the best. What's the best value? That's always how I looked at something. What's the best value? It's a combination of service and price. And so in this particular case, getting the biggest person, their overhead is excessive, or in excess of what smaller firms may be. You may get better service. And that may be the criteria that you want to use is, if I call for an inspection, do I get an inspection when I want, within a 2-hour window, regardless of the day of the week, holiday, anything? I'm willing to pay that premium. Some people may be, other people may not. But my analysis from the information that was provided to us, all of those fees will go up. And I think that that's it's misleading to say it's a pass-through. Yeah, it's a pass-through, but you're taking all of that money and just giving it to an outside vendor. I don't know what any of that analysis was, and I don't know. I'm going to request it. I don't know that it'll be shared with me or not. And I just think it's unfortunate that you've come to this conclusion and not provided us with any of the supporting data that backs up whatever conclusion or analysis that you've come up with. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Bob. Does anybody else wish to make comment before the board tonight? Christine, Bert, you both good? All right.
Pull it up. Let's go. Come on, you come on.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Sure.
So moved. Thank you all for coming. We always do appreciate it.